Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Shaki and today we're going to be doing my January wrap up. I actually already tried to film this once, but my phone screen was being really weird. I have fixed it now, it's all good, it's all dandy, but the first time I tried to film with that screen, I just made a balls out of the filming and it was really overexposed. In fact, I will insert a clip just so you know how bad it was, because it was awful. It was bad. So I decided to refilm my January wrap up because I thought I cannot post this to my channel. I read a total of 8 books in the month of January, which is really good for me because I want to read 100 books over this year, and to do that I have to read 2 books a week, and I might as well just show you what they're about and my opinions. Something I've been wanting to do on my channel in 2019 as well, kind of like an unspoken resolution, is post more book reviews of books that I like on my channel, because I often don't make them or just upload them because I don't have anything else to film. I would like to read more books with the intention of reviewing them. So if I have any reviews of them, I will let you know and I will link them below. I also probably have Goodreads reviews for all of them, so I'll also link those below as well. So technically the first book that I read this month / year was Tarot for Beginners, A Guide to Psychic Tarot Reading, Real Tarot Card Meanings and Simple Tarot Spreads by Lisa Chamberlain. I was doing this thing over on my Instagram stories and in my real life where I was pulling a tarot card a day just to get to know my deck. I kind of stopped this, but never mind. I was up until 4 o'clock in the morning one time just reading the shit out of this book and reading it all the way through. It's a non-fiction book basically about tarot reading, the history of the card, basically a book you have with you when you're reading if you need a book. But yeah, this was my first official read. On to the second book I read in January, and the first fiction book that I read in the new year is The Upside Unrequited by Becky Albertalli. I have a full spoiler-free review on this. This was my book review of the month. But this is basically about Molly, who has had loads of crushes and she never acts upon them. She's an expert in unrequited love, and it's kind of become an inside joke in her friendship group, in her family, everywhere she goes, that she never has a boyfriend or a girlfriend. She always just has crushes. But no matter who the crush is, where they come from, how she feels about them, she always tells Cassie, her twin sister, about them, and they talk about their crushes for hours and hours on end. But when Molly introduces Cassie to her future girlfriend, everything spirals out of control because Cassie's never really had a girlfriend either. Cassie always kind of sleeps around and never wants to commit, but this time she's ready to commit. But where does that leave her sister Molly? Molly feels abandoned by her sister, by her sibling, and she feels like she needs to get on her level, and by doing so she can in turn be closer and relate to her sister more. So she goes through trials and tribulations and trying to get a boyfriend that she doesn't actually want, and just it's heartbreaking to watch. I really enjoyed this. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars because it is a really good diverse read. I was going through a little bit of a mini reading slump. Well, I wouldn't call it a reading slump. I hadn't read since the new year had started. Like, obviously I read the Tarot Card for Beginners book, but I hadn't read any fiction, and I feel like this contemporary novel was everything that I needed to get back into it. I did find some problems with it. There are loads of pros and cons, but I will leave that with my review, so you can go and watch that if you would like to see more of my thoughts. Just a consensus video, otherwise it'll be very long. The next book that I read in January was Prodigy by Marie Lu, which is the sequel to Legend, also by Marie Lu. So obviously I can't tell you what this book is specifically about because it is a sequel, but I can tell you what the main plot of the first book, Legend, is. So Legend basically follows a girl called June whose brother has just died and been killed by a very wanted criminal called Day. She trains and she's set the mission to go and capture Day and possibly kill him. So we have that perspective over there with June, and we also have the perspective of Day. His interesting story with government corruption and a test that children do in this world, and how there's a disease going around called the plague, and how Day is kind of conspiring that the government have put them up to it. And it's a very interesting read, very similar to the Hunger Games without the Hunger Games in it. Very political if that's what you're looking for. Personally, it was what definitely I was looking for. So I think I ended up giving this a 4 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read in January was Turtles All the Way Down by John Green, which was for the Greenathon. This may or may not be posted before our live show of John Green's Turtles All the Way Down, but basically I'm doing a whole live stream and read along of all of John Green's books. Not only this, I'm also posting a review, but I already have a review of Turtles All the Way Down on my channel, so I will link that below. Every other month we will have to read a John Green book, like next month if Will Grayson, Will Grayson, and then the following month, the second month, we will be talking about it on a live stream. The live stream for Turtles All the Way Down, if you're interested, happens on February 10th. I think I'm posting this around Friday, Thursday. So if you're interested, then come and hop along. This is about our main character Arza, who has OCD and anxiety, and she gets lost in her compulsion. Her and her friend Daisy come into a lot of money after trying to figure out where a billionaire has gone missing. Arza just becomes really invested in the family, trying to find these 2 abandoned sons' dad. This was a reread for me. I read it at a time that it wasn't 100% relevant to me, but now it definitely definitely is, and I really bumped up my rating for this one to a 4.5 stars. For some reason it really resonated with me. It was really deep and I enjoyed it the second time more than the first time. I don't have OCD, but the anxiety rep is really good, and I've also heard the OCD one is very good as well. There's also a rep for depersonalization as well. Just be wary of that when you're going in. Arza talks a lot about not really existing and questioning her existence, so if you're triggered by that, then that is that. But if you're looking for a rep for DPD, then I really would recommend Tuck the Way Down, because it hints it. It's not a DPD book, but it hints at it. All I'm going to say about this is it's very character driven, not much happens with the plot, and a lot of people give this a criticism because of this, but some people like that, and if you like that, you'll definitely like this book. The next book that I got round to in January was Clockwork Angel by Cassandra Clare. This is the first thing that I've read in the Shadowhunter Chronicles, set in the Shadowhunter like world, that hasn't been the Mortal Instruments for me, and I was so nervous and skeptical going in. This is the first book in the Infernal Devices series, which follows a bigger history of Shadowhunters, as well as they're from England. This is basically about Tessa, who is under the rule of two people called the Dark Sisters, and they are utilising her very unique power for evil, basically. Tessa has a very unique power. She can turn into people, she can like morph into them if she has enough of their personal belongings. At the same time as this, Will and Jem, who are both Shadowhunters, are investigating a murder of a girl, and they stumble across Tessa on their way, so they decide to save her and bring her back to the Institute, not knowing that Tessa actually has a bigger thing to do with the murder that they're trying to solve than they initially realised. This was so good. I loved it so much. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. I was very skeptical and my expectations were very low because it's the first thing, again, that I've read outside of the Mortal Instruments, but I enjoyed it more than the Mortal Instruments, and that's something that I can say so proudly, and I have heard a lot of people say as well. If you're scared about going into the Infernal Devices after you read TMI, I actually have not finished. I'm reading them in publication order. Please don't be scared, it is amazing, and I actually liked it way more than the Mortal Instruments. So far I think I've had quite a good reading month / year, but then we started to have a little bit of a dip for the next 2 books. In this dip includes Girl Hearts Girl by Lucy Sutcliffe. I gave this a 2.75 over at Goodreads. I'd really like to say how proud I am of Lucy for publishing this and writing this, and how much it would mean to her fans and possibly some people that are LGBTQ+ and growing up with that. However, I feel like this was supposed to be a book for her already existing fans, because it's basically an autobiography of a YouTuber called Lucy and her girlfriend, who they meet and they start post videos online, and they in turn become famous because of it. I feel like a lot of the LGBTQ+ stuff in her childhood was skipped over to get to the good bit where her and her girlfriend become famous. I personally would have liked to know much more about her struggles with LGBTQ+ness in Devon, because she studies there for university, I'm pretty sure, and they're really bad for racism and homophobia, so I would love to have known more about that. Obviously there are exceptions, but I feel like this was very much tailored to an audience that Lucy was already familiar with, and I don't feel like it was a book for people outside of the audience. Obviously, again, there are exceptions, but personally I unfortunately wasn't. I feel like this could have been a very nice little story to contribute to the LGBTQ+ fiction discussion, but instead it was basically an autobiography, and I didn't really want that. I wasn't really looking for that. I now follow Lucy Sutcliffe on Instagram and Twitter, and from what I've seen from brief intervals of her social media, she sounds like a lovely woman, but unfortunately this didn't really hit the mark for me, and I thought it was going to be completely different. I was told I was going to like it a lot, but I'm just not into it. I just saw right past it. The storyline was kind of like shaky and flat, and I felt like this could have been good, but unfortunately it wasn't, which is why ultimately I was disappointed, even though I had no expectations at all, but somehow they still weren't met. The second book in my little dip of good reading was Wild Like Me by Louise Pentland, and I'm sorry this is going to glare. I'm going to try and hold it in a position where it doesn't. This is a book written by another YouTuber called Louise Pentland, as you can see on the title, and I have no normal problem with YouTubers writing books, but unfortunately I think 2 of the ones I've experienced so far have been pretty shit. I give this a 2 stars because it's basically about a woman who needs a man, and I was so just sick of it. It tries so hard to be feminist, but it actually turned out to be anti-feminist. This is about Robin Wilde, who is a single mum of 1. She's called Lila Blue, which I find really adorable. I found that name really cool, and she's basically trying to battle something she calls the emptiness, which at first I thought, oh no, it's about mental health, it's about how being single and being a single mum especially affects her mental health. No, she's depressed because she doesn't have a man, and I was fucking so ready to fight for that. Oh my god, I was just like, no, that's a missed opportunity. She's basically trying to find her feet after a big divorce, which That's familiar. A lot of people who have rated this on Goodreads and reviewed it on there agree with me in the fact that I couldn't distinguish fact from fiction. This reads a lot like a autobiography again of Louise. The main problems I have with this is the story fell flat, nothing really happened. She toyed with a man that treated her wrong and then she realised that she was better than him and then continued to cry because she didn't have a man anymore. She quotes a few things that are a bit questionable. I think the first one that really shook me up was how she says she only wants a husband so she can go to IKEA so he can lift her fucking seats down. It really isn't that hard to put the seats down in the car. I think as well with that scene, it's a bit really over dramatic and I feel like it was really realistic. I don't think it would actually happen. But I do feel like the writing was a bit flowery sometimes and a bit cringe, do I dare say. She's constantly thinking about, oh, am I giving my daughter enough, when she literally lives in Cambridge and she's got a house and she's middle class, and it's like, yes you are, you just don't have a man. And that is the like sole centre of this book, is her being bothered and being depressed because she doesn't have a man to be in bed with. Also, some things that caused problems with my reading experience with this was how fucking body shaming it is. She says some things like, at least I don't look as hungry as the other girls on this shoot. Or she says regarding a woman in the playground where she's picking up her daughter, she looks so shocked that she accidentally swallowed a calorie. Robin Wilde was a shit protagonist in my opinion. I hated her voice, I hated her critical inner monologue. I feel like Louise thought she did something for feminism when she wrote this book and wrote Robin Wilde as a bitchy main character who hated other women. Another thing that she says regarding body image is the fact that she's a normal weight. Like, how does that picture us as someone with a normal weight? Some of the things that description wise and plot wise and just her inner monologue were just really, really bad, and I really hope that Robin Wilde throughout the rest of the books becomes a better person, but unfortunately I don't think I care or have the money to actually find out. That should have been a redemption arc in the first book and the only book. Like, it shouldn't have been stretched out over 3 books to make more money, let's be entirely honest. I love Louise Pentland, I watch her vlogs, I watch her videos, I watch everything that she posts, I read her blog posts, but now I'm starting to think that she's a bit, you know, like Robin Wilde, and it makes me question whether I want to actually watch Louise's videos anymore. I probably still will because I thought Louise was better than this, but obviously not. Towards the end of my reading month, we kind of picked up again in the reading department, and I had a very average read to end January 2019. So the last book that I read in January 2019 was All the Bright Places by Jennifer Niven. This is basically split into 2 perspectives, Theo and Violet. Theo is the kid who's weird, and the only reason why he's weird is because he tried to kill himself. Everyone hates him, but everyone thinks he's cool at the same time. I don't know how that works, but it's a massive trope in like YA high school fiction, and it fucking bugs the shit out of me. And then we have another perspective called Violet, and she's really popular. She dated the most popular guy in school, so she's really pretty and a cheerleader. Theo and Violet are 2 main characters in our 2 perspectives. Meet in a meet cute moment, I think it's supposed to be, but it's not, and I think that's the irony. On top of the school's bell tower, because they are both thinking of jumping off and ending their own lives. So Theo talks Violet down from the bell tower and instantly becomes friends with her and attached to her, but I feel like he goes about it in the wrong way. He's very forceful and he's quite like, you'll be my friend or even my girlfriend and I will not take no for an answer. Obviously, as I'm describing the context and the subject matter of the book, please be aware of the trigger warnings. We've got trigger warning for bullying, for suicide, for bipolar, for depression, self-harm, suicide and suicide attempts. So be wary of all of those things before going into this book, because there are huge plot points which, you know, it's argued that that isn't ethical. The whole debate around this book and books like 13 Reasons Why is, do they romanticize suicide? And I would argue that this one definitely does. Not to spoil it, but there are some moments in the book where, you know, suicide is very much like, oh, they'll like me better if I'm dead. Also talks about suicide in quite just a ambitious and creative fashion. Like, anybody who witnesses these feelings of like suicidal thoughts think very intricately about what's going to happen after they die and everyone's reaction. I do feel like it's romanticizes suicide. However, I've heard that the representation for bipolar is really good because Theo has bipolar, and a lot of people thought it was really well done in that respect. I don't have bipolar, but, you know, I'll take the people's word for it. I will say the whole suicide thing isn't well done. It's romanticized quite a lot. Something else that is romanticized about this whole like mental health journey that these 2 characters go on is the fact that he saved Violet, and that Violet believes that she wouldn't be alive without Theo and she owes everything to him. Kind of made out to be this really romantic relationship, an intimate relationship, when it's actually really toxic and abusive. I personally have been in this position where Violet and Theo are in, and I thought at the time this was very romantic and it was very like Romeo and Juliet kind of thing, but in reality it was very abusive and got very, very manipulative very, very fast. So it was kind of wrong to portray this kind of relationship as healthy when it really wasn't, and it was never challenged explicitly in this novel. I did enjoy the rep and I did enjoy the characters. I feel like the character development was really good, but unfortunately the storyline and the representation of suicide wasn't up to par. It kind of let the whole novel down. I was very torn when I first read this, but I decided to settle on a 3 stars because it was pretty average, although it did spark some debate in me whether this was romanticised or not, but in conclusion it was. So these are all of the books that I managed to get read in the month of January. If you liked my wrap up, please give it a massive thumbs up, and don't forget to go and view all of the reviews, Goodreads or video reviews of these. They will be down in the description box below. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked it, please give a massive thumbs up and subscribe. I make videos on this channel for booktube every single Tuesday, and I will see you next week for a brand new video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!
You've got a face for a smile, you know. A shame you're wasted when you're breaking me slowly. But I've got a world of chances.